thank you, Professor Gauss. Wonderful introduction. I really cannot take credit for everything here. Actually, about 10 years ago, I was also just like you. I'm an undergraduate student studying here at Applied Foreign Languages. Of course, I had the great Professor Ho, okay, that's taught me a lot about teaching and what you could do. And so today, I assume that many of you are here because you are either considering to become a TA, or perhaps you are already serving as a TA and you want to try and learn to hone your skills so that you can thrive in an environment. So this is my table of contents. First, we'll go through a little bit of the introduction of EMI. I'm sure many of you are already familiar with that. Talk about your role, okay, in EMI. And then thirdly, I want to talk a little bit about communication strategies. And this is actually one of my favorite topics to talk about. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll finally end off with active learning supports and feedback. Okay. Yeah, so this is me, just a little bit about myself. My name is Kyle, and you already know, about 10 years ago, I was also a student here. Afterwards, I pursued my master's and my PhD at National Taiwan Normal University, also known as NTNU. Okay. And it was also during that time where I was very fortunate to be able to teach some undergraduate courses. And it was also during that time where EMI was just actually taking off in Taiwan. So I really had the opportunity to take a look at the unique challenges and the opportunities that EMI could present. So I'll just quickly go through this. I'm sure everyone already knows what EMI is, right? English Medium Instruction. And just like its name, it's basically using English to teach a subject in a place where English is not the first language. And EMI is gaining traction around the world, and for very good reasons. So it opens the door to a wider world where students would have more marketplace opportunities, and at the same time, they can also enhance their bilingual proficiency. All right? So this enhances the global competitiveness and as well as multilingualism. Okay, so your roles of TA in EMI, okay? First, you bridge linguistic and cultural gaps in diverse classrooms. Number two, you support both students and instructors in engagement. And as well, you would enhance the learning experience of students through active engagement and support. Okay, so before all of that, you have to try and get to know your students, correct? All right. There are three things that I usually like to do at the beginning of the semester if I have the time, so I can get to know my students more. Those three things are self-introduction, icebreaker activities, and surveys. Let's first take a look at self-introduction. So we're all very familiar with what self-introduction is, right? In the beginning of the course, sometimes I would give my students these types of prompts or questions for them to prepare. And once they're fully prepared, I invite each one to come up to the stage and just share with the class your answers to these quite simple, basic questions. Next thing is icebreaker activities. Okay, now the difference between icebreaker activities and self-introduction, they're quite similar. But the difference is students really enjoy having icebreaker activities because it's more engaging and more fun. Okay, so one of the icebreaker activities I like to do is 2 truths and a lie. And I'm sure some of you are familiar with this. So what I do is I have each student think about 3 statements about themselves. And one of the statements is actually a lie. And I have them come to the stage and also have them present these 3 statements, while the rest of the class would then try and guess which statement is incorrect. Okay, so it's really fun and engaging activity. And it usually eases the tension of the students. You know, when you come into an EMI course, you feel a lot of anxiety. So these types of icebreaker activities really ease the tension. Third thing, surveys. So let's say you don't have time, you cannot do self-introduction, you don't have time to do icebreaker activities. then you can always opt for a survey. And of course, Google Form is one of the most convenient platforms to use to survey. So one survey you could use is called a Classroom Expectation Survey. And this survey aims to understand what the student expects from taking this course. Okay? Okay. Next, supporting instructors. So I mentioned a little bit. You will be communicating with the instructor and supporting them, depending on what they want you to do. So you would assist in preparing EMI course materials, right? You help tailor content, okay, to delivery to the students' needs. And you can also provide feedback to the instructors, letting them know how students are learning in class. Okay, so first thing, assisting with EMI course materials. You would collaborate with instructors to perhaps integrate visual aids and multimedia. So let's say your professor wants you to create a PowerPoint for a particular day, or your professor wants you to create a worksheet or activity for that particular day in class. Okay. What you could do is try to put visual aids. And as you can see from my own PowerPoint, you can see that I also try to include visual aids. So this is a picture trying to show you what multimedia might look like, if this is a term that students don't understand. So we're no strangers to playing videos or sharing videos in class, right? And because it's an EMI course, you would usually play videos which are spoken in English. Now with YouTube, there's always a closed caption function, which you can just turn on subtitles. Always try to choose videos which provide subtitles. Okay, if not, then you can always open the closed captions. And it would be even a bonus if you can find dual subtitles. Okay, meaning it has both English and Chinese at the same time. That way, students can grasp the information more effectively. Second thing is develop bilingual glossaries. Okay, so you see what I did there? That is an example of a glossary. So regardless of your EMI course, you are bound to find some technical terms or specific English words that is related to that course. Okay, so I would advise you to, beforehand, try and find out what are the key vocabulary or keywords that are used in that particular course and develop a bilingual glossary. You can also discuss with your instructor, and together you can come up with some keywords which you think could be very important. So what I want you to do now, if you have a piece of paper and a pen, please take it out. Or if you have an iPad, that's also fine. I want to let you draw something. All right, so I'm going to give you some instructions, and let's draw a picture together. All right. So if you can get a piece of paper. If not, then just follow along. So just take a look at it. Okay? All right, step one. At the bottom of the paper, draw two small squares, approximately 8 centimeters apart. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Are we done? Okay, then go to step two. Inside each square, across the bottom, draw a series of half circles. Okay, next step. Draw a large rectangle on top of and connecting both squares. Next step. On top of the upper right corner of the rectangle, draw a circle whose diameter is the height of the rectangle. Okay, next. Draw a large S starting at the 5 o'clock position in the circle and moving outside the circle. Okay. Next part. Draw another S parallel to the first S you draw. draw another circle in the upper left corner of the first circle, half in the first circle and half out. Starting at the upper left corner of the rectangle, draw another S outside the rectangle. Okay, that should be it. I see a lot of people giving up, right? Oh, there's one more. Just above the two parallel S, draw two ovals, one inside the other. The inner one in the lower half of the outer one. What did you draw? An elephant, okay? Anyone else have an elephant? Just raise your hand. If you have an elephant also. One and just two, Professor Kyle, okay. Anyone else has something, don't know what it is, just raise your hand. I don't know what I just draw. That should be the most common thing. So it's an elephant. All right, okay. Okay, most of you could not draw this. Okay, what happened? What happened? It was ineffective communication. Okay, so there were a lot of terms inside that I actually did not even explain to you. I did not simplify my instructions to you, and I also did not explain some terms that you might not understand immediately. Right? So I was not clear, and I was also not concise. Right? Okay, because of time, I won't play this video. But this video basically shows, if you've seen the video called The Office, and this person's name is called Michael, and in this video, he's very, very not concise with his speech. So he just keeps talking and talking and talking. So, how do you do clear and effective communication? First thing, you try to simplify complex terms. Okay? Number two, you utilize visuals and examples to aid understanding. Just now when I asked you to draw that, I did not put any visuals, only words. Okay? And I also did not give you some simple examples. So you might not have an idea of what to do. Okay. Third thing is you try and reinforce key concepts through repetition and summary. Okay, how do you do that? How do you repeat and summarize key concepts? This takes me to this concept called active listening. Now this concept is actually quite popular in the field of psychology. So I borrowed this concept and I think it's quite helpful even in the classroom. So what is active listening? First, active listening is listening with full attention. Okay, that might seem very, very simple, but actually needs a lot of practice. Number two, active listening means repeating back or summarizing what you heard to check understanding. Okay, and number three, it's asking questions back to the person to clear up any confusion. Okay, so this is what usually happens in a conversation, right? So two people talking about what they want to talk about. And while the other person may seem like they're replying to you, but actually they're also just talking about what they want to talk about. This is what should happen. Okay. That is you, okay, on the right, right? And the person is talking about something, and they probably need your help, or they want to, share their opinions or ideas. You basically follow them, okay, by saying the same thing, repeating back, or summarizing what they said. And by the end, I promise you, communication is achieved. Right? So just to recap, active listening. Okay, it encourages full attention to the student's responses first, if they ever come to you. Try and first summarize or ask clarifying questions to their to what they say, and then in the end you provide the feedback. But first, you must always do active listening before you give the feedback to them. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about active learning support. So I find active learning as an incredibly helpful activity when it comes to EMI. And a lot of active learning is focused around student-centered activities. And these activities actually encourages the students to do a lot of critical thinking and problem solving. Okay, so group discussions is really a great way for students to come together and work together on their problem solving skills. Okay, it's a way for them to talk about something, share their ideas, and also for other students to learn from other members' perspectives. And it helps reinforce their learning and build their confidence. I personally like to use technology to do active learning. So some digital platforms, such as Google Classroom, is very, very direct and convenient to use. I also like to use Padlet, so that's where students basically write what they think, and on the platform, everyone gets to see who typed what, and you can also learn from their perspective as well. Okay, feedback. All right, so I've spoken quite a few about feedback, and I think the word feedback, when you hear it, is usually what people think is correcting what is wrong, right? Okay, but I think that is not necessarily incorrect, but I think it's incomplete. Okay, so feedback, instead of just being correction, it can also be used as a learning tool. Okay, so if it is used as a learning tool, it can help enhance students' understanding of both the language and the content. Okay, and it can also help build their confidence and motivate them to engage more with the course materials. So, some techniques for providing feedback. Number one, be timely with your feedback. Sometimes I have my students do presentations, right? While they're doing the presentations, let's say they say something incorrect or they made an error. Sometimes I really want to just correct them right on the spot. But I don't do that anymore because I think I'm not being timely with my feedback. That usually disrupts their flow and it also confuses them while they're still doing presentation because they're feeling very anxious in that moment. So once they're finished, then I give the feedback after they've completed their presentation. Number two, I use the sandwich method. Okay, now this is a little bit like active listening, right? So positive, constructive, positive. Basically, I put the feedback in between the two positive statements, right? So let me just show you an example. Okay, let's say they finished their presentation. I say, you really know your stuff about the topic. It's great to see how much you care and have learned. Okay, there's the positive start. And then I give them the constructive feedback in the middle. Okay, it might help to put your ideas in order, like starting with the main points and then adding details. Okay, this way everyone can follow along easier. Okay, and then I end off with another positive end. Okay, with your knowledge and a little bit of organizing, your talk will go even better next time. Okay, so that's providing a sandwich method in terms of feedback. Okay, last but not least, I ask open-ended questions to prompt self-evaluation. So let's say they've finished their presentation. I would ask them, okay, so which part of your presentation do you feel you're most feel proud of? Okay, so this not only lets them see where they have succeeded in their presentation, but it also helps them think about which areas could they then improve on. Okay, so two sides to it. Okay, so in summary, okay, USTAs is there to bridge linguistic and cultural gaps, okay, in the EMI settings. Remember, you are a mediator between the students and the instructor. Okay, effective communication leads to successful EMI courses. Okay, so try to use either of those techniques, and of course, active listening. Number three, constructive feedback and supports are very crucial for student learning.